We'll start with our game of the weekend, which is the huge clash on Saturday afternoon at Bramall Lane, Sheffield United v Millwall. But the question, which the whole nation is waiting tentatively to hear the answer to, is, what derby is this?
This is the Kevin Muscat derby, baby.
Oh, it's not. Did he play for Sheffield United?
No, he didn't. But I'm paying homage to that classic bit of naughtiness from Kevin Muscat and Paddy Kenny. Yeah.
Legendary footage,
Exactly.
You don't have to say much more than that. I can understand why you'd say the Muscat derby. I would allow that on that occasion, but unfortunately everyone knows it's the Ollie Burke derby, a man so fondly remembered at every club he's ever played at in England. Did a YouTube video on him over the summer, didn't I? Highly recommend that if you want to know more about the highs and lows of his career. Seems to be doing a lot better now over in Germany than he definitely was at Sheffield United and or Millwall. But enough with that nonsense. What another huge game this is for Rubén Sellés. I know we're just 2 games in, but how badly does he need a result already after back-to-back defeats, Justin?
It's crazy, isn't it? I would argue that of all the managers this season, and maybe previous seasons, probably since we've been covering the podcast, I don't think no one has needed a win more than Rubén Sellés after just 2 games. It is a lot of pressure on him at the moment, and it's an astonishing turn of events. But it just speaks of where they are now compared to where they were. Record points tally last season for the club. Now in a state of flux because of a poor transfer window, sacking a legendary manager, and ultimately the new one coming in and not getting the team performing. Yeah, Rubén Sellés is under pressure. Fans, the board potentially. Results are needed, performances are needed, and need them quick.
Yeah, well, it comes after they were an absolute disaster class at the back in their opening game against Bristol City, but not too bad going forwards. And then against Swansea, they weren't too bad at the back, but an absolute disaster class in attack. Not a single shot on target in that game last weekend. So it's safe to say Sellés needs to find that balance, but it's a lot easier said than done doing that, isn't it? And he's admitted it was a really bad first week at the club, having lost in the League Cup as well. He said, I can ask the fans to be calm, but they are probably going to tell me to fuck off, which, yeah, is about right.
It is. I actually think that's refreshing. I really do, because to have a positive outlook, he's being self-aware. He's not he's not trying to tell people the situation is different. He knows the stickiness that they're in at the moment. And yeah, as I say, that's a self-awareness that not a lot of managers will have. We see a lot of the times that sometimes managers can just gaslight supporters into thinking things are fine. Things are fine, nothing happening here. And actually, it's a shit show. It is a shit show, but Sellés, I think, knows it's a shit show. He's cursed the recruitment already this summer, and he's very aware that the fans are going to tell him to fuck off if he tells them to chill out, and that's absolutely fine. That's fair. It's a good outlook to have, as I say. Yeah, well, he's been a bit rather entertaining, shall we say, in his post pre-match presses. Honest is also a good way to put it, I guess. As you say, last week he was really going in hard on the old recruitment team, Monty, and they finally look like they're starting to get some cogs going with that, because centre back has clearly been an issue where they needed to strengthen, especially after the departure of Anel Ahmedhodzic. So they needed to strengthen there, and they are doing that by getting in 3 centre-backs. Multiple reports say Ben Godfrey is set to join on loan from Atalanta. Fabrizio Romano is reporting Swedish international Nils Zetterström is moving for around £3 million from Malmo. And the Daily Mirror say Ben Mee is also signing as a free agent after leaving Brentford this summer. Yeah. 3 centre-backs all in one. It feels like a very sassy response from Sheffield United's recruitment team after Sellés was criticising them last week. The AI computer is just clicking its fingers now going, I told you. It's clearly a position that desperately needed strengthening. Clearly, a lot of problems against Bristol City came from defensive issues, mix-up, no one taking control of scenarios. It just lacked personality. I don't know enough about Nils Zetterström. Obviously, the last sort of venture with Malmo was Anel Ahmedhodzic, turned out very well. Ben Mee carries leadership, something that the squad lacked, I think, and Ben Godfrey, despite a poor injury record, does bring a lot of championship experience in games, as well as versatility. And of course, he's got a lot of top flight experience. So, a good selection of players. It's a direct response to something that should have been addressed, June, to be honest with you. But now they're 2 games into the season, they're finally fixing an issue that's been present for a long time. Yeah, it's a smart move. I would say they're good signings. Not enough known about Zatterstrom, but as I say, based on Ahmed Hodzic, why not?
Yeah, I should also mention they've been linked with Japhet Tanganga, of course, from their opponents this weekend, Millwall, which is a nice little subplot heading into this one. Whether that's still happening or not after these 3 signings, I don't know. But yeah, I'm the same as you. I don't know much about Nils Zatterstrom. Ben Mee, I'm guessing, is more of a backup option. Ben Godfrey is the interesting one because Everton paid 20 million for him from Norwich 5 years ago. Started well, but found himself dropping more and more down the pecking order there. And then he went to Atalanta for 11 million last summer and has barely played for them. Then went on loan to Ipswich in January, barely played for them either. Only played 418 minutes in the entirety of last season, and none of it seemed to be down to injury. So what's going on there? I have no idea. How good is he now? Also no idea. He's still only 27 though, so these should be the peak years of his career. The problem is I'm getting a lot of Mason Holgate energy from this move. And for those who don't know how that loan spell went at Bramall Lane, it went pretty terribly. While we're on the topic of transfers, though, we've had an update from the Sheffield Star on the future of Gustavo Harmer. They say he's not actively seeking a move away and is content at Bramall Lane despite links with the move away. However, he is keen on a move back to the Netherlands, where he, of course, grew up, and several clubs still monitoring his situation. So, good news for now, Justin.
Yeah, the murmurings are interesting because, like you always say, there's no smoke without fire. Agents will speak to journalists and what have you, and the links will find their way to the ether, i.e. us, eventually. That being said, I do think if the team isn't a success, then sure, I could see him leaving. This window, probably not. It's January, you maybe start to worry. As I say, I think if Sheffield United are up and running, Harmer will be a little bit more reluctant to leave halfway through the season because he comes across as a very, I don't know, I wouldn't say wholesome, that's the wrong way of putting it. He's just a very committed player. You know, he wants to see things through. And obviously, if Sheffield United are going well, then sure, I think you'd see that through. But if they are lacking, sort of mid-table, and a Eredivisie club comes knocking with a decent package, then sure, yeah, I could see him leaving in January. But for now, it's good news.
Yeah, well, he's Sheffield United's most talented player, isn't he? So of course they want to keep him. What I would also say is there's not much point in keeping him if you're not going to get the best out of him, because he's not had a great start to the season. He's looked pretty frustrated. He's playing centrally this season, but I think you want him playing further forwards, personally. That's how you get the best out of him, in my eyes, anyway. But if Sayers doesn't think he suits how he wants to play, then Harmer's got 2 years left on his contract. May as well cash in now if that is the case. But in my eyes, he's the kind of player you build the team around, isn't he? So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up in the next week and a bit. Let's talk about the visitors to Bramall Lane for this game. That is, of course, Millwall, who had 2 very contrasting games to start their season. They got an excellent win away at Norwich in a game I didn't expect them to win, but followed that up by getting thumped 3-0 at home by Middlesbrough in a game I did expect them to win. So very peculiar, Justin.
Yeah, definitely a mixed start. And I think it was more of a strange one against Middlesbrough because they had a couple of chances in the game. Obviously, Josh Coburn had a big one where he hit the woodwork. I think more so they got into some really good areas, but just struggled to make it count. For me, it just stinks of a team just getting up and running in August. You know, they're not quite at their best, and unfortunately, Middlesbrough really, really punished them. So despite that heavy defeat, there's still a lot of quality in this Millwall side for sure. And like I said, great away win at Norwich, and then a poor home defeat against Borough. It's a very contrasting situation, but we've seen 2 sides of Millwall in 2 different games. Don't know what a third would look like, but hopefully it's more Norwich than it is Borough, because I think if Millwall do have aspirations of finishing the playoffs, they need to be beating the teams that are also having aspirations of finishing the playoffs. I think Sheffield United will be one of those. So yeah, definitely contrasting, but I would expect more of a Norwich performance here against for Millwall than I would Borough.
Yeah, well, in fairness to the Wall, I do think the 3-0 scoreline was harsh in that Borough game. Borough probably deserved the win, but I don't think Millwall were that bad by any means. So I won't be too discouraged by that game. What is concerning is the injury news regarding new signing Alfie Doherty. The left wing back only joined last month, but suffered a hamstring injury in that Middlesbrough game. Millwall boss Alex Neil said, I don't know what the definitive timescale is, but it doesn't feel as if it's going to be any time soon, which is a real shame, Justin. I was very excited for that move when it came through.
Yeah, he was a big reason as to why I was quite high on Millwall, to be honest. His creativity, or the amount of chances he created just from the left-hand side for even last season from when he was available, was massive, was absolutely massive. And I say we know what he can do creatively. We know that, and him being available instantly improves this Millwall side. But they are well stacked on the left. Zach Sturge came in the summer. They've got Joe Bryant. The only thing that would be missing is that guaranteed source of creativity from set plays, from open play, etc. So yeah, it's a blow. Hopefully the hamstring injury isn't a significant one, and we do see him sooner rather than later, because yeah, he's a star player.
Yeah, well, he did have his fair share of injury problems last season with Luton, didn't he? So it's not that much of a surprise to see him sidelined. You just hope it's not going to be that long, because I'm the same as you. I was expecting him to be a big player for Millwall, and you're absolutely right, Justin. At left back, they are well stocked. They've re-signed Zach Sturge, as you say. Joe Bryan's there, but I think he's injured now as well. But Doherty can be such a game changer from left back, so hopefully we see him again soon, because that quality that he possesses, particularly when it comes to set pieces, delivery into the box, that can be something that can be a really potent weapon for Millwall going forward. So hopefully we see him back again very soon. Who's winning this game, Justin? Sheffield United v Millwall at Bramall Lane tomorrow afternoon.
Ooh, I'm going to go with the away side. I think Millwall. I think it's the sort of game where Alex Neil will come to Bramall Lane with a game plan to frustrate, really, really frustrate, get the crowd agitated. And I think with that crowd tipping very close to the edge as it already is, that's going to make things difficult for Blaze to really sort of grow into the game. And I think Millwall just hit them on the counter, and that will play into their favour. I struggle to see Sheffield United really coping with the physicality I think Millwall will bring, especially at set plays and in the final third. I think it'll be a typical Millwall performance that we see or have seen in the past, especially away from home at a tough ground to go to. So yeah, narrow Millwall win, I think.
Yeah, things could turn very quickly there, couldn't they, if Sheffield United don't get off to a good start. But you're absolutely right. It's very hard to convincingly back a Sheffield United result after those first two performances, isn't it? It would be a big leap of faith to back them against a very game Millwall side, and they will absolutely relish the chance to inflict more misery on Rubén Sellés and his boys, won't they? As I say, I don't think they were as bad as that result suggested last week against Middlesbrough. If Sheffield United are as much of a mess at the back as they were against Bristol City, Millwall will definitely take advantage. If Sheffield United are so poor in attack as they were against Swansea, Millwall will definitely keep them at arm's length. So a lot depends on how Sheffield United show up for this game. But I definitely wouldn't be betting against seeing some very angry Blades fans in the stands at half-time, put it that way, Justin. Don't worry though, Sheffield United fans, it could always be a hell of a lot worse.
Wednesday Watch.
Yes, this is Wednesday Watch here on the Second-Tier Podcast. Still a very big fan of that jingle. Not too much going on from a Wednesday perspective for once. It seems a bit quieter than it usually is, which I think all Wednesday fans will be pretty happy about. They travel to Wrexham this weekend for the latest chapter in what is shaping up to be a pretty miserable campaign, of course, for the Owls. As far as I'm aware, there aren't any organised protests planned for this one, but there's bound to be some form of anti-Chancery action, as there always will be for the foreseeable future. The big news surrounding Wednesday, though, is football related, and it involves their goalkeeper Piers Charles. Very highly rated young lad, reportedly attracting a lot of interest from the Premier League, but he appears to be set for a spell on the sidelines after a shoulder injury, and it could be quite a lengthy spell at that. The obvious problem surrounding that is Wednesday aren't exactly stacked with bodies right now, and they're not allowed to sign anyone until Chancery can guarantee that wages will be paid. However, it looks like they've been given an exemption to get a goalkeeper in, and they're getting in Ethan Horvath from Cardiff City, which is better than what their other options were, because their only other fit goalkeepers right now are an 18-year-old called Logan Stretch or a 19-year-old called Jack Phillips, neither of whom have played a game of senior football. So that's been avoided there. And otherwise, not much else to report on, really, with Wednesday. They'll be hoping that this is a game that they can get a result from. I think that's fair to say, but we'll wait and see. They've not done too badly in their 2 games so far, have they? Despite the 2 losses. So hopefully maybe they can get something here, but we'll wait and see because I think they deserve some sort of respite, don't they? Justin, we'll take a quick break. After that, we'll make some predictions for the rest of the weekend across the Championship. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. It's time for us to make some predictions ahead of this weekend because in each preview episode of the Second Tier, Justin and I will each pick a banker, a team we think is guaranteed to win this coming weekend, as well as an outsider, so someone we think is going to win but is bigger odds with the bookies than their opponent. We're tracking how we do as the season goes on. 1 point for a correct banker, 2 points for an outsider. Whoever loses has to do a forfeit, which we're still trying to work out. We're trying to get the logistics of these things nailed down before we settle on what we actually go with. But stay tuned, ladies and gents. We're not cowarding out just yet. And the current scores look like this. It's 4-1 to Justin Peach. Justin's record so far reads no correct bankers, but 2 correct outsiders. The latest being West Brom to beat Wrexham last weekend. I drew a blank last week, which is annoying. But are you hopeful of continuing your outsider streak, Peachy?
I am actually. I mean, if I actually put money on these things, I might be a very well.
I was going to say you probably start doing that because you make a pretty penny off the back of these if it keeps going.
Yeah, I mean, I was very nifty at it last season as well. It's why I won. It's why I'm the champion. It's why I'm the greatest there ever was, there ever is, there ever will be.
Humble little twat. Let's go to your banker for this weekend, Justin. What have you got for us here?
I've gone with Southampton to win at home to Stoke on Saturday afternoon. Of course, It's the Rory Delap showdown. Didn't have that written down. I just wanted to get that in. I think Saints at home should see them over the line. I know Stoke fans will curse us for pitting them against or putting a banker against them. But from what we've seen in Southampton's last 2 games, they've been very tight affairs. I expect Stoke to give them a very difficult afternoon. Probably will score as well, actually, because again, along with Wrexham, Stoke have been one of the big creators in the division so far. Southampton not exactly gleaming defensively in terms of restricting shots, so I'm not expecting a Southampton clean sheet in the slightest. But for me, when we're talking about a game of 90 minutes, subs changing games, I think Southampton have got more options, a deeper armoury than Stoke. The ability to mix things up is there, go direct. Of course, the winner against Wrexham came from a Shea Charles diagonal to Ryan Manning, very wide on the left-hand side, who then put the cross in for Jack Stevens. So there's that option. They can flood bodies in the box if things are tight. There's quality there to see them through. So as I say, I think it'll be a tight game and maybe another late win for Southampton.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked this, Justin, because if I picked it and Stoke don't lose, my notifications on Saturday night would have been completely unbearable.
What's your source going to say? That's what I want to know.
I mean, everyone keeps asking me that, but my source did say it's an absolute fucking shit show at Stoke. But yeah, I mean, I'm obviously not very hot on Stoke this season, and from these first 2 games, I don't think that's changed too much, but we'll leave that there. Southampton, I haven't been massively impressed with either. As you say, defensively, they've been a bit of a shambles so far. They probably should have conceded more than just the 2 goals. And going forwards, they haven't been exactly outstanding. So this was definitely a game I was going to avoid because I didn't want to convincingly back up either way, to be honest. Southampton look like they will be one of the many clubs who are set to be busy in the final week and a bit of the transfer window. TalkSport is reporting they're yet to receive a second bid from West Ham for Matthias Fernandes. Still no word either on the future of Tyler Dibbling, but they may be set to make additions still. That's because the Daily Mail say they've made an offer of up to £12 million for Middlesbrough midfielder Finn Azaz. They had previously been linked with Jack Rodoni from Coventry, but now appear to have given up on that pursuit. But what do you think to Azaz potentially going to Saints, Justin?
It's a big one. It's obvious that Southampton are after a creative 10, aren't they? And there's not many better in the division than Finn Azaz. I'd argue that width is probably an issue right now. But I think my hunch at the moment is that still going to persist. He's going to persist with a back 3 and wing backs. Doesn't fill me with much confidence, mind. But if you do add Finn Azaz into a final third of any team, of course, he played in that role for Plymouth. We know that. So he's going to be a difference maker. So yeah, it's an exciting link. Interested to see what he can do in a big setup, a big pressured scenario. Because I think a lot of last season he was maybe a bit of a bully against the teams who struggled defensively. But that's not to take anything away from him. He's a very creative player. And I think sometimes players just need scenarios where they step up. And obviously Borough were very inconsistent last season. So yeah, very exciting link. Disappointing for Borough. They become a selling club. That's it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Finn Azaz. He's obviously got a lot of ability and can change games. He often was a chance-creating machine at Borough. But there's just something holding me back with him from saying he's a Premier League quality player. If I'm in Southampton shoes, you want to be targeting players who can make that step up to the Prem. I don't know why, but I'm just not completely sold on Azaz being able to do that. Maybe it's because the reports I've seen say that Middlesbrough are happy to sell him, which I just look at and go, oh, why is that then? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being overly cautious because his numbers were phenomenal. But I don't know. I was more excited by the prospect of Rodoni than Azaz at Southampton. Put it that way, Justin.
Yeah, that's an important thing. But that's why Azaz is number 2 in the list, apparently. So, yeah. They're going to miss out on Jack Rodoni. That being said, would you double down on Jack Rodoni? I personally, I would. I think he's got a higher ceiling than Finn Azaz. And that's probably where we're at. That's probably why you're a little bit reluctant to be like, okay, is Finn Azaz a Premier League player? Maybe. But I think Jack Rodoni's got a much higher ceiling, whereas I don't think Finn Azaz does. I think we're seeing maybe him close to his best, whereas, yeah, Rodoni's got gears.
Yeah. We'll see, won't we? Let's go to my banker for this weekend. I've gone with Birmingham City to win at home on Saturday afternoon against Oxford United. Cheeky little return for Gary Rowett, St Andrews, his first time back since getting relegated just over 12 months ago with Birmingham. Wasn't really his fault, was it? So I don't think Blues fans will be too rough with him. Having said that, I can't see him enjoying his trip back to the West Midlands. Oxford, for me, have had a low-key worrying start. I say low-key because I don't think anyone's got particularly high expectations with them this season. I don't think anyone's looking higher than a relegation battle with them. But 2 losses from 2 against Portsmouth and Hull, 2 teams without massive expectations this season. Not ideal. They didn't play badly in either of those 2 games, to be fair, but they will need to be on it if they want to get anything at St Andrews. That's because Birmingham have made a flying start. They were very impressive on the opening day against Ipswich, the promotion favourites no less. Would have won it if it wasn't for a dodgy penalty, and then had that dramatic comeback against Blackburn last week. They are riding that crest of a wave. They also haven't officially lost at home in the league in 16 months when Gary Rowett was in charge of them, actually. And quite simply, they have a significantly stronger squad than Oxford, who we said needed to strengthen before the season started, and they haven't. So I don't see anything other than a Birmingham win here, unfortunately, Justin. Yeah,
I mean, one thing I wanted to mention, it would be interesting to see what reception Gary Rowett gets. Just because of my own curiosity, is he well revered at Birmingham or not? I don't know, especially after that last spell. But what we can expect is he's going to put out a very awkward team, and I think the only factor that's sort of holding me back in terms of really backing a Birmingham win is an old manager returning to their old club and trying to get a result, because Gary Rowett always comes across as a manager who likes to get one over his former clubs. That's the only, I say logical, it's not really logical, is it? Because it's not based on anything. That's the only thing I can really put behind an Oxford result here. That being said, Birmingham have got so much strength and firepower in place to come in that it is hard to foresee an Oxford result. It's going to have to be one of those games, if Oxford are going to come away with a win or even a draw, where they have 2 shots, 1 shot on target, and Birmingham have a really bad day in front of goal. That's the only way I can foresee an Oxford result here.
Yeah, well, Birmingham last season, obviously in League One, were a winning machine, weren't they? And that's when they were coming up against teams pretty much every week who were sat with 11 men behind the ball. And I can see this being a very similar case here. And I think, no disrespect to Oxford, but Oxford are probably as close as you're going to get to a League One side that Birmingham will face this season. So they'll probably set up that way, but Birmingham showed on plenty of occasions last season that that's not really an issue for them. So, as I say, I'll be very surprised if Birmingham don't win this one. We mentioned yesterday how Blues look set to go big in the final week or so of the transfer window, with the likes of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain being linked. Another player being linked is Lewis Koumas of Liverpool. The Liverpool Echo say both Blues and Wrexham want the 19-year-old on a permanent deal. The 19-year-old attacker was on loan at Stoke last season, already has 6 caps for the Welsh national team. Permanent deal was a bit of a surprise for me, Justin.
It is, but it feels like Liverpool are selling a lot of academy talent probably to offset some profit and sustainability things. These players are clear profit. That's just speculation, but a lot of academy players are being sold.
To potentially fund a move for a certain Swede. Is that what you're insinuating here?
A certain Swede who refuses to play. He's pulling a Ross McCormack to link it back to the Championship. That being said, the gate issue's the only one he's not used yet. So, yeah, maybe he'll pull that out of the hat. But nonetheless, Lewis Koumas would be a great signing for any team in the Championship, and he's got such a high ceiling. He really has. I know his spell at Stoke wasn't particularly great. 5-goal contribution in 43 games isn't quite good enough, but it's his first loan out to a poor side. It was all a learning curve. So I think wherever his next spell comes, it will be a positive one. So whether that's Wrexham or Birmingham, he's going to give them a lot of flexibility in the final third. And a player who's got a bit of a point to prove after, what was I would say disappointing loan spell from his perspective.
I'm not sure it was necessarily disappointing in defence of him. I think he ended up playing a hell of a lot more than he was expecting, and maybe Stoke were expecting as well because of injuries. So maybe he was just a bit overexposed at Stoke at times and had a lot more responsibility on his shoulders than many were expecting. I think he's definitely got an awful lot of potential. You saw moments of real class at Stoke. I think he needs to get on the weights perhaps a little bit. I'm not sure I'm not sure I can say that personally. Exactly. Not sure I'm the person to be criticising him on that, but at the same time, it's definitely something where he needs to strengthen. But he's still only young. He's 19, for God's sake. So that will happen in time. And I did see that obviously he's been linked with Wrexham as well. I believe his dad, obviously the legends that is Jason Koumas, lives in Wrexham. So maybe that'll be something that swings him towards Hollywood FC. I don't know. But Birmingham have clearly shown an interest in him, but I think they're showing an interest in a fair few people in the next week and a bit, aren't they? So I don't think they'll be too disappointed if that move doesn't come through. Let's go to your outsider for this weekend, Justin. What have you got for us right here?
I've gone with QPR to win away at Coventry on Saturday afternoon. Now, I can already hear the Coventry fans saying, "Oh, it's Frank Lampard, anti-Frank Lampard. We beat Derby last week." No, it's not. To be honest with you, we're a bit short on outsiders this weekend. But for me, I know it's been a mixed start for QPR. So draw with Preston, defeat last weekend against Watford, defeat to a nightmare team at Plymouth who are doing terribly in League One at the moment with the Messiah that is Tom Cleverley in charge. But for me, we've not seen this QPR side properly flex yet. And I feel like now Richard Kone's in the squad. He got 20 minutes against Watford. He's had a week. We could see that start to happen. Again, Kwame Poco may or may not be available, but on the counter, I think QPR will carry a heavy threat, which I think will ultimately edge them in a tight game. We saw Hull be a very stubborn side at the CBS on the opening day of the season against Coventry. I think QPR will do the same. They'll frustrate Cov. And it's a difficult thing when you're at home and you're trying to bang on the door and break a team down. I think QPR will be stubborn. And ultimately, they carry a bit more of a threat on the counter than I think Hull did. So, yeah, edging towards a QPR win here.
Yeah, Coventry have very much been kind of following the theme of this episode so far, haven't they? That we've seen sort of a Jekyll and Hyde of some teams in these first 2 games. Coventry in that first game of the season against Hull, I reckon they could have played for another 90 minutes and I don't think they would have scored. But then, of course, got the 5 goals against Derby last weekend, and helped by some awfully shoddy defending by Derby. Yeah. But, we've seen, feast or famine with Coventry in these first 2 games. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. QPR have had a fair few injury problems, haven't they? They had Kieran Morgan, who's usually a number 10, I think, playing at right back in their last game. They had Amadou Mbenge. He was playing at left back when he's usually a centre back in their last game. So they've had to sort of move a few bits and pieces around, and in time, that should hopefully get better, and they will start to realise the dark horse potential, which I've been coining them with all summer, because it's not been a great start, but hopefully that will improve as time goes on. But we've got some very good news for Coventry, Justin. Sky Sports say Jack Rodoni is set to stay. He was attracting interest from the aforementioned Southampton, but the midfielder is said to be happy at the CBS Arena, and presuming he does stay, that is a big old boost for the Sky Blues, isn't it?
Yeah, huge. I would think he's central to their success this season. You need players of star quality, and Jack Rodoni has that star quality. I think even talking about Middlesbrough and Finn Azaz, to say that we think Jack Rodoni's got a higher ceiling than Finn Azaz is quite something, considering how consistent Finn Azaz has been over the last 2 years. It was a bit of I won't say it was a breakout year for Rodoni last year, but it was an opportunity for him really, really show what he's about. And I think credit to Frank Lampard for getting the best out of him, because Rodoni was trying to find his way in the Mark Robbins team, whereas Lampard really, really got the best out of him. So, yeah, Lampard deserves his flowers, and so does Jack Rodoni. But then him staying, I think, is a testament to the ambition of the football club, because could have easily sold him for 10, 15 million pounds. That's not happened. He's staying.
He's got an unbelievable mullet right now as well, a top-class mullet. I was at Pride Park last week, and I did spend an awful lot of that game just staring at Jack Rodoni's mullet.
The thing is,
really killed that.
Everyone's got mullets at the moment, so the mullets for me are less spectacular. If he had one 2 years ago, I'd think, yeah, cool dude. But everyone's got one now.
But he's got like a nice curly one, a wavy one. It does look really, really good. That's what I aspire to be, but my hair's not really wavy enough, so I can't pull it off. But well done to you, Jack. You've got hair envy on my behalf. QPR, meanwhile, they're reportedly set to receive upwards of £5 million from the Eberechi Eze to Arsenal deal. They're believed to have a clause which means they get 15% of the profit Crystal Palace make on him, which is not bad at all, is it? I suppose, and it feels like I'm stating the obvious when I say this, but I suppose it's just another example of why clubs at a level similar to that of QPR should focus on developing players, shouldn't they, Justin? Because if you sell them, you can make a big old profit on them and then make even more money if they get sold on again. It's double bubble, isn't it? And I know not every young player is going to turn out to be Eberechi Eze, but QPR have now made 30 million from a player who started off as an 18-year-old trialist. You know what I mean? It's not bad, is it?
Yeah, and obviously it was that breakout year in the 2019-2020 season.
It's a long time ago, 1920, but he's done well to be around for 105 years. Finally hit his peak. No, it's astonishing rise, it really is. And I think credit to QPR for putting those clauses in his contract, because you never know how a signing's going to adapt to the Premier League, do you? Thankfully, Eberechi Eze's got that class about him, the arrogance you need, I think, to be a top player. Similar to Michael Elise, really. Victor Gyökeres maybe as well. Yeah, I think clubs putting these clauses in the contracts is a much better way, I think, to these things. And obviously, as you say, developing players is an important thing. You are right. I think every single club in the Championship should be doing it. That's why I'm so uneasy with the Wrexham approach, for example. I think you've got to buy reasonable, sell high. Get a cheeky clause in there as well. Benefit a couple of years down the line. Yeah, Wrexham, in fairness to them, they are not looking to build, are they? They are looking to just go all the way straight as soon as they can, aren't they? Whereas someone like QPR, who aren't exactly, you're not backed by Hollywood actors. You make your money another way, don't you? And developing players is how they've gone about it, and they've done pretty well with it over the years. Eze is obviously the cream of the crop in that regard. I do feel like a proud father seeing Eze as well, Justin, because as you were alluding to, he really broke out in our first season covering the Championship, didn't he? So seeing him become the player he is now does make me very happy. Yeah,
of course we were wholly responsible for his rise as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, don't take anything away from us. We worked really hard to get him to where he is today. So absolutely, very proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to my outsider for this weekend. I've gone with Charlton to win at home to Leicester City on Saturday lunchtime. Yeah. This is mainly a Leicester-centric pick because I have been very concerned with them so far. 2 games against 2 of the poorer sides in the division, and they've really struggled in both. The first was literally the poorest side in the division in Sheffield Wednesday. And despite Wednesday's obvious disadvantages, Leicester made really hard work of that one and were pretty fortunate to get the win, actually. And then against Preston last weekend, they were second best to Preston, a team which many have predicted to go down. One win in their previous 16 league games. That's why Leicester are the team I've been the least impressed by so far. They've got an incredible team on paper, don't get me wrong. In reality, they look like a team of individuals. And if they're like that against Charlton, they'll struggle because Nathan Jones' side have been very solid so far. One of only 2 teams yet to concede a goal. In terms of the underlying data, they've given very little away. One on the opening day against Watford, probably came the closest to winning against Bristol City last weekend. So it's been a promising start. The new signings seem to have settled well. Rob Apter's really caught the eye. Harvey Nibbs obviously got the dramatic winner on his debut. Maybe a slight concern with the striker situation so far from what I'm seeing with Charlton fans, but all thumbs up as far as Charlton are concerned with me. And they can get a very impressive scalp right here and leave Nathan Jones fist pumping until the veins pop out of his head.
This is a horrible game for Leicester to play
yeah.
when you are struggling, and you've got key players putting out sort of stay together messages as Abdul Fattah did last weekend, off the back of last weekend, I should say. Going away to Charlton against a Nathan Jones team who they're going to be horrible and scrappy to play against. They're not conceding many chances. They conceded a fair few shots, but in terms of quality chances, they are conceding. One of the best performing teams in the division and yet to concede a goal. This is shit. This is a horrible game to play. And then you mix. It's a really good point to make that Leicester do look like a team of individuals. Marty Cifuentes got a big job on his hand. The polar opposite to Charlton, who Nathan Jones is incredibly gifted at putting a team together and making it a team. And I just think that sort of element, again, like I say, just adds to that aspect of it being a horrible game for Leicester to play. So yeah, this is a very, very nice one. I'm annoyed I didn't get my pick in earlier than you because I'd have picked this all day.
Yeah, it's one of those that's got banana skin written all over it from a Leicester perspective, hasn't it? But as time goes on, it wouldn't surprise me if Leicester, based off these first 2 games, whether they're actually in a pretty similar position to Charlton. But in terms of their budgets, there's obviously a fair bit difference between them. Leicester looks set to lose Bilal El Khanous. Multiple reports say Crystal Palace are close to agreeing a £32 million deal for the midfielder. I guess straight replacement for Eze, isn't it? Not a huge surprise, that one, Justin. What probably is a surprise is that Ipswich Town have reportedly submitted a bid for Leicester winger Casey McAteer. The Telegraph say they're hopeful of getting the 23-year-old, which is not a move I expected if it does happen, Justin.
If it does happen, what picture does that paint for Leicester's financial situation? Because I like Casey McAteer a lot. He was injured a fair bit last season in the Premier League, but in the Championship he contributed a hell of a lot during their in their title-winning season under Enzo Maresca. So I think Ipswich going in for him is quite smart. He's versatile as well, so he can cover the left, obviously, with injuries that are going on at Ipswich, and obviously Leif Davis, uncertainty about his future, and he can play further forward. He's the perfect player you want in this squad. So yeah, what sort of picture does that paint for Leicester and their situation? It's not an ideal one.
Yeah, well, Casey McAteer is a very talented young lad. The issue that he currently finds himself in, though, is that Leicester's most talented player in Abdul Fattah also plays in his position, and as long as he's there, he's not going to get much of a look in, I imagine. And so I imagine Leicester would like to keep him, but they, as you say, are they really in a position where they can turn down what I imagine is good money? We don't know how much the bid is at the moment, but can they afford to turn down decent money for someone who's going to be second choice? We don't know what their financial position is at this very moment, but considering literally their only signing so far is a 38-year-old Asmir Begovic, I'm going to assume they're not exactly flourishing. They're not Grandpa Duck from a Donald Duck with a what's his
Scrooge
name?
McDuck, you
Scrooge
idiot.
McDuck. Fuck.
Grandpa Duck.
I couldn't remember his name. So they're not Scrooge McDuck right now. So I imagine they have to keep selling even after El Khanous is gone to put themselves in a position where they can reinvest that money and have the books balanced. And from McAteer's perspective, yes, he's been at Leicester since I think he was 8, came through the academy, but it looks like he'll get more regular football playing under a top-class coach at a club with a better chance of being successful if he moves to Ipswich. So this does make a lot of sense if it does happen, Justin.
Well, exactly, and again, it's just a messy summer for Leicester. It really is, and ultimately, there needs to be a little bit more transparency on the direction of the football club, because I think what's happening on the pitch at the moment is only going to become more reflective off the pitch, or what is happening off the pitch. And if Leicester don't get results on the board, all the eyes and the attention is going to be to things that are going on in the boardroom, or what's not going on in the boardroom, which, as we know, isn't much really at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, those are our predictions for the weekend, and that means it must be time for this.
All right. Settle down, you lot. It's time for the Craig Bryson pub quiz.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Barman. It's the Craig Bryson pub quiz, and this is how it works. I'm going to give Justin 6 clues about a Championship player, past or present, each more revealing than the last, and I simply have to get him to guess who it is. They must have made over 200 Championship appearances in their career, and don't forget the Dexter Blackstock rule is in play. You want the first clue, Justin?
Go on.
I have 309 Championship appearances, scoring 42 goals.
Ooh, that's either a decent winger or a below average striker. I'll go with a decent winger, and I'll say Tommy Smith.
Ooh, always good to hear him mentioned, but it's not Tommy Smith, unfortunately. Your next clue is this. I made my competitive debut in 2008 for Wycombe Wanderers.
Gareth McCleary.
It's not Gareth McCleary, but always good to hear him mentioned. Let's go to your next clue. This is clue number 3. Internationally, I've played 16 times for Scotland, scoring 1 goal. What are you thinking, Justin?
I'm just disappointed at Scotland. If you'd have said somewhere like in the Caribbean, I might have got it.
Okay.
Because it's very specific. Scotland is very broad. I'll go with... he made his debut for Wycombe.
Well, who are you going to say?
I was going to say Chris Burke, but this stinks of grandparents having a Scottish passport.
I don't know where Chris Burke started his career, to be honest.
Well, it's not Chris Burke then, is it?
I didn't think you were going to guess him anyway.
No. Next clue, please.
Clue number 4. I have 4 relegations from the Premier League to my name. A feat which has only been topped by 2 other players.
I think he played for Wolves at some point.
Wolves did have a fair few relegations back in the noughties / early 2010s, didn't they?
It's 14 caps for Scotland, 1 goal. Made his debut 2008 for Wycombe. I feel like I should have that. 300 odd appearances, 40 odd goals.
Your next clue, you've got some clubs, if that helps.
I want to throw a name out there.
Okay.
Well, he played for Scotland, but it's when they were shit, so I don't know. When?
I was going to say.
Stop. Okay, give me the next clue.
2 clues left, ladies and gents. Got some clubs coming up now, though, Justin. Start piecing stuff together. Clue number 5. At Championship level, I've played for 4 clubs, including West Brom, QPR, and Blackpool.
West Brom, QPR, Blackpool.
You had a big smile on your face just a second ago,
Matt
so
Phillips.
I thought you were going to get it. Oh, he has got it anyway. Yes, that is right, ladies and gents. It is Matty Phillips. Of course it is. Got relegated with QPR, Blackpool and West Brom, I think. All 3 of them.
Didn't play for Wolves.
Didn't play for Wolves. No, you're absolutely right. Of course, the final club he played for at Championship level was Oxford. When I said made my competitive debut in 2008 for Wycombe, I was like, that's one of the things Justin will know. So I was very keen to just move on from that clue, because when it comes to anything late noughties EFL football, it's very much in your wheelhouse, isn't it?
It is a niche. That being said, I don't know where Matt Phillips started his career. Well, I do now, but I don't know where he started.
Okay.
he just sort of pitched up at Blackpool, was actually really good for them, and then spent some years in the Premier League. He assisted Mark Harris's absolute whopper last year against Blackburn.
He did, didn't he? You're absolutely right. Would you like the final clue for Matt Phillips, Justin?
Yeah, go on then.
I scored a goal which was included in the official Premier League YouTube channel's top 40 goals of the 2010s. What a fucking shit snorter that was.
Yeah, absolute thunderbastard, wasn't it?
Oh.
Nearly, it could have disintegrated the goalkeeper's wrists.
I think it was coined when I was trying to do some research on that. I think it was coined the greatest consolation goal football has ever seen, because I think it was for QPR.
Yeah.
They were 3-0 down. They'd been 3-0 down for like half an hour, and it was the 85th minute. And then 40 yards out, he just absolutely smashes it into the top corner. It's astonishing.
Yeah. It was an absolute bang. I don't know I can't remember who it was against, but it's just one of
Palace.
them. It was an evening game, wasn't it?
Palace.
You just sort of, it was an absolute thunderbastard. But he's got that. He's like, I think unfulfilled potential, maybe injuries owing. I don't think he ever really reached the heights that I expected him to. I really rated him at one point.
Yeah, I always thought he was quite injury prone, but you look at it, he had 309 appearances. I think he made something like 150 appearances in the Prem. So he still played a hell of a lot. But you're right, he's considering how big and strong and quick he is, or was in his prime anyway, you'd have thought he would have maybe gone on to bigger heights. I don't know. But Matty Phillips, the answer to this week's Craig Bryson pub quiz. What a legend of the game, and what a legendary show this has been, ladies and gents. This has been the second tier preview show where I've been looking ahead to the third game week of the championship season, and we look forward to reviewing it all with you on Sunday. So we look forward to seeing you then for that. But this has been the second tier podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.